I guess I knew it was really terrible when I looked up at 104th floor of the tower, and I saw a man jumping out of the window. And once you see that, you realize how horrible this is. And then ultimately, when you look back on it, you just say, God decided who was going to make it and who wasn't. And I mean, the numbers are staggering. Yeah. It's impossible to really even comprehend. I think it's going to take years to comprehend the amount of damage that was done to human life with this one attack.
Speaking as one who grew up in the New York metro area and became politically and socially aware during the tenures of some of the more questionable men to hold elected office in New York City, I speak from personal experience. Rudy Giuliani was a pretty good mayor. Granted, he was no saint, had his share of questionable calls, and that's what happens when you're mayor of the biggest and most complicated collection of people in the world. Do the research to learn about the great Virginia trash disaster of 1999. You'll see what I mean. A good deal of the anger and hard feeling toward Giuliani dissipated September 11, 2001. Not as if he put on a big blue cape, swept in, saved the city single-handedly after the Islamic extremist killers turned the city and the nation forever inside out. But it was his calm demeanor, the manner in which he handled the destruction, the way he stayed steady in the face of real uncertainty. For a time, it indeed turned him into America's mayor. For a time. But little, if anything, lasts when there are politics involved. In recent years, he has become something of a controversial figure, always orbiting around the Republican Party. Maybe still seeking for some way to remain relevant, to keep his name in the news. Maybe still desiring to be admired and noted for something other than 9/11. The former mayor had no trouble injecting himself into conversations for which he was eminently qualified. In the wake of Ferguson, Giuliani felt secure in his numbers and facts to detail how the reason more police officers are needed in black communities was because more blacks were killing blacks in those communities. The reaction was swift and damning from critics that the mayor had shown his true colors and was nothing more than a racist.
I find it very disappointing that you're not discussing the fact that 93% of blacks in America are killed by other blacks. We're talking about the exception here.
Well, look, first of all,
go ahead, Mike. No, but this is about a trust issue.
We are talking about the significant exception. 93% of blacks are killed by other blacks.
Let me respond to that.
I would like to see the attention. I'd like to see the attention paid to that you are paying to this, and the solutions to that.
He's taking up time. Can I say this? First of all, most black people who commit crimes against other black people go to jail. Number two, they are not sworn by the police department as a agent of the state to uphold the law. So in both cases, that's a false equivalency that the mayor has drawn, which has exacerbated tensions that are deeply embedded in American culture.
That one, as all controversial stories, managed to eventually be buried in the 24/7 never-ending news cycle. Local stations went back to taking YouTube feeds from viewers, and the partisan networks returned to ISIS killers and global discourse, including the Mad Russian. But Giuliani was never far from the front pages, always dangling on the fringe, yet perfectly dancing the tight wire and going after President Barack Obama. Face it, the man is good. He understands where the line is, or at least he always seemed to know where that marker was.
At a dinner with wealthy Republican donors last night, saying, "I do not believe, and I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I do not believe that the president loves America. He doesn't love you, and he doesn't love me. He wasn't brought up the way you were brought up, and I was brought up through love of this country." A statement that drew such sharp responses, Giuliani backed down, sort of, on Fox today.
He's a patriot, I'm sure. What I'm saying is that in his rhetoric, I do hear him criticize America much more often than other American presidents.
And other Republicans, potential candidates like Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, agreed with Giuliani. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, also at the Giuliani dinner, didn't disagree.
The mayor can speak for himself. I'm not going to comment on what the president thinks or not. He can speak for himself as well. I'll tell you, I love America.
Mr. Mayor, Rudy, was it really necessary to go down that road? Granted, the president is as chock full of rhetoric, bumble, and bluster as anybody, certainly more than plenty. He panders at the speed of political light, figuratively bends over to kiss the feet and other body parts of world leaders as he seeks to minimize the American spirit, and he stretches the facts farther than a kid would stretch a Gumby left out in the noonday sun. We get it. But this was unnecessary. Spitting out what sounds like old man get off my lawn bile is not what America needs at the moment in the way of leadership. Stop trying to be a soundbite machine and pander, because you could become part of the problem instead of the solution, and that could cost Republicans and the nation dearly come 2016. So be a part of the solution, and that is telling it like it is. Rock on, true believers. See you Friday, right back here where we question everything on MidPoint.